Yeah.
So I gotta
Hey,
fix my camera here a little
oh
bit.
yeah, no problem.
There.
Hey everyone, welcome to the episode of That's All You Got. We're good. No, welcome to the episode of That's All Funny. My guest today is host of on YouTube Mysteries and Backstories, but on podcast platforms everywhere else, making fun of dead people. JJ, hey, how you doing, JJ?
Hey, good to be here, man, for sure. Looking forward to having a convo on this very somber 9/11.
Yeah, I was just thinking that too. I had that question here, but we'll get to it. If you know it's not too touchy of a subject, I did want to talk to you because we were talking a little bit while ago. On YouTube, your show's called Mysteries and Backstories, while on the podcasts everywhere else, I'm guessing, at least in Spotify, is called Making Fun of Dead People. And what's the reason behind that?
So the original name, like making fun of dead people, just comes from the fact I was stumped. I didn't know what to call it. And I'm like, well, what is this thing? I'm like, you're just talking about dead people and you're essentially exploiting their story, right? For whatever reason. I'm like, this is every true crime podcast, every mystery podcast. So like it was kind of a placeholder and I just left it there. I was like, okay, well, this is the anchor point of like, where I'm gonna brainstorm from. This is what making fun of dead people is supposed to be. A little bit of comedy, a little bit of some weird ways people die. And slowly it kind of definitely it transitioned a little bit more into kind of the mystery aspect, and it made more sense, especially on YouTube, to change the name. It didn't seem to like or to like I guess maybe it found me a little too offensive. I guess
Yeah,
is the best way to say it. Yeah, yeah.
the word dead, I guess they yeah, that kind of gets you I don't know, shadow banned or limited or whatever they want to call it.
Oh yeah, like it's funny, and I especially if it picks it up even in the episodes now, because it'll auto transcribe everything. Like you got to be careful what you're saying in there. It really knows how to pick it out and kind of censor you as much as it wants to, I guess.
No, yeah, yeah. I mean I put the show on YouTube too and I care and I don't. It's one of those things where like I should care more, but it's also like I hate how we can't kind of just be ourselves, where you got to like
Oh yeah.
change words or say them in a different way and it's kind of like it ruins the flow of how what kind of person genuinely you might be.
Oh man, yeah. Like today, I did a story like that I uploaded today, and I was trying to make a joke about kind of the Catholic Church and all the fun that they had with the kids, right? And I'm like, fuck, like I can't say this, and I can't. I'm like, how can I still say this? Like, it's funny because yeah, it's a little bit out there that you have to kind of like, you can't just say you fucking molested somebody or the Catholic Church did. It's like, no, they had a little too much fun with them. Wink, but we
Yeah.
all know what it means, right? We all know what it means.
And that's the thing. We all know what we mean. We just can't. We got to dance around it. Like I don't know, like wearing tap shoes or something.
Oh God, yeah,
Yeah. No.
yeah, it's a little
It's
silly.
no.
Some days
So
I get the feeling it's on the way out the door, but then other, it's hard to say.
I mean, that's how death is, right? We're always one foot out the door. I guess if you think about
Oh, absolutely. And that getting
it.
closer every day.
No, but and you talk about like you said, mysteries, deaths, and sort of bringing humor to it and all that on your show. Would you say like your first? I wouldn't say brush with death is because we could talk about that on a different topic. But when do you think you remember you first like realized about death? Can you recall as like a kid or a youngster like, man, when did death like hit your head?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I mean, it's been an obsession my whole life. Like I mean, hence the podcast, right? But I think seriously, I remember being told I would have been grade like kindergarten, junior kindergarten here in Canada, and I was in a Catholic school, and they're talking like they're telling me like 4, 5, 6 years old about how like if you die, you're gonna burn for eternity. Basically, if here's a list of 10 things you can't do, which like I'm like shit, I'm fucking 6 and I've already checked a few of those off, right? And,
Yeah.
but then like it starts hitting me this concept like fuck, like we're talking forever here, like there, this expanse of time that at 5 or 6 years old you can't comprehend. And I used to like seriously get this like existential dread that you're not supposed to get as a kid, And
No.
I think it definitely shaped me. Yeah, yeah. Like as a young kid, I would like stay up at night, like thinking about how big the universe is, and it doesn't end. And this concept of like, shit, what's gonna happen when we're gone, gone, and I think just a feeling of helplessness, even of like, even if you go to like heaven, man, or whatever they made up at the time, uh, like you're kind of still stuck there forever. Like how fucking boring is that?
Yeah, it's pretty scary. And back then you're it's an adult telling you, so you're just gonna believe it. Like the
Oh, for
truth.
sure.
The truth, and it hits you, and yeah, like that's like a legit fear as a kid. Like
Oh man, yeah, it is, and it's funny. And I talked to a guy at work about this once, how he was raised in a kind of similar way, but like you end up kind of growing to resent how they tried to bring you up in that kind of Catholic school environment, because as an adult, you're like learning, like, wait, like all this shit that I taught was like such BS. Like we're told that these the Bible's a literal translation. At least when I was a kid, you're thinking that cavemen and dinosaur did exist, alongside each other, because that's
mhm.
what God intended, right? Like all this stuff in there, and like, man, like as you got older, like Jesus Christ, like I feel like how a citizen of Russia or North Korea must move when they kind of leave Scientology, maybe.
No, I
Like,
remember when I was a kid, I was real close to like my grandparents, and we lived next to them. And one day I like went into my grandparents' house and went to like wake up my grandmother, and her eyes were just open, and trying to shake her awake, just,
no.
oh, she's probably just asleep. And then she ended up passing away, and I found her, and I mean, looking back on that now, I was just like, man, it's a traumatic event. But I was like, like it was pretty. I feel like that's like my first brush with death, and I was like, man, that kind of sucks. But it's kind of
Yeah.
funny too to look back on it, where I'm like, oh no, I found our grandma like dead. Like I don't know what to do except,
Oh God, yeah,
yeah,
that'd be
yeah,
terrifying. Can't say I've gone through that. Oh
yeah.
man.
And then you just learn. I don't know. And then, um, I don't know. I would say like now looking now into being an adult, right? And we look back at how we had feared death. Now I don't know if it's what your personal thoughts on it or mine, but we kind of like, I don't know what's the word, because we're always cheating death. I know I'm cheating death because I'm overweight. I have a lot of issues with my medical. I take a lot of pills and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel now about death as an adult now after you've learned everything. Like, are you still afraid of it? You know what I mean? Does it still strike fear to you, or well, obviously you kind of laugh at some expense, what with your podcast.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's always a little element of fear. It's definitely something I've kind of grown to come accustomed to, is like, just, you don't really got a choice in the matter. It's just one of those things. You can stress about it all you want. I've seen how indiscriminate it can be, kind of like, you see people die that shouldn't die, and you see people that live that shouldn't live, and this whole idea that you get to live old and die, and that's what everyone gets. But it's like this common denominator we all have, and it's like, yeah, you can't, like, you're all going to die. And I remember one time, literally, this was kind of part of when I was naming the podcast, like, you can't make fun of dead people. And it's like, well, why not? Like, you're going to die, I'm going to die, like, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, what are you going to care? You're dead. Like, and I get like the aspect of, yeah, like the respectful aspect, but it's kind of funny that we all have this thing in common that we're just too scared to really talk about. And I don't know, it's definitely, I think in Canada, at least, we've started to accept more and more like this culture of around people dying. We've, legalized euthanasia, that kind of stuff. Kind of
Hmm.
backfired though, because like now we're just using it on people that can't afford to pay their rent and shit. But like the intentions there were good, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You tried.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, no, and with the going circling back into death, and thinking about like the public now. Do you think like do you remember when you were younger? I don't know if you're around my age. I was born in the late '80s.
yeah,
Um, and growing up, you didn't really see like a lot of, not until the internet, like death everywhere. Like I would hear it, maybe a celebrity on the news died, or in your newspaper local, like an obituary, oh yeah, this person died, or whatever, someone at school, like unfortunately whatever. But now, like with the internet, we're seeing like videos, literally videos of death just
Yeah.
on our like for you page. We'll see a video of someone dying. How do you feel about that, or how do you think it is? Like, do you think it's right? Or do you think like that
Oh.
was just evolution?
Oh man, yeah, evolution part of it for sure. I mean, primate brains that we still carry around with us. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of that gory stuff. I don't tend to watch it, but I've definitely seen it. I don't think like is there something wrong with it? No, I don't personally think there is because I'm not a huge fan of just hiding from fucking reality. And the reality is if there's people gunning down your neighbor because they shoveled snow into your driveway, maybe that's good information to have in the back of your head the next time you want to go road rage on somebody.
Hmm.
On the other hand, yeah, like I don't want to see it myself. I wouldn't want to see one of my loved ones up there for sure. But I mean, I don't know how to say it. Like, we can't not do it. I truly believe that we
Yeah.
can't not do it. Like at the end of the day, we don't. I don't want to say we have a choice, but like we're good at somebody somewhere. If it's not Twitter, it's going to be platformed somewhere else, like all the gore videos and shootings and violence. Like the drone videos of the Russians or the Ukrainians, like taking out the Russian guys. Like I see those pop up all the time, and they're like, please don't kill me. And then they put these like captions on with all these like terrible like comic sayings and stuff, and then so all you see is like they're
it's
vaporized the guy, right? Like,
it's so terrible. I think the first ones I would watch were like the carnival rides, like gone wrong, where they fall off or something like that.
oh
And
God, yeah.
yeah, that's like one of those things where you're like, oh, what's happening here? And then you see and you're like, oh God. But then you like watch it again, and you slowly get desensitized to it. And I feel like
Oh
that,
yeah.
that's
Yeah,
a,
for
a big
sure.
thing too with kids nowadays, because they don't know what's like. They feel like they're gonna respawn if they get shot or something, like a
Oh
video
God,
game.
yeah. Yeah, and you see like especially like self-awareness. I got two teenagers and like both of them. That's one thing they don't have. They don't go out in the world. When they
Oh
do
yeah.
go outside, they don't have that the awareness of like one danger around them in general, like people, but like also like crossing the road without your headphones on. So I mean the cards are kind of stacked against them. There's no doubt about that.
Hmm.
Um, but we're gonna have to learn to drive slower, man. I don't know. We're gonna have to adjust.
No, I know the exact feeling, because I always think of it because I already have like a anxious mindset, so I feel
Okay.
like it might just be paranoia, but it could just be valid that I fear these things like that could actually happen in the real world, because the world's a scary place, especially now.
Uh, yeah, like, and it's not. We live in a shelter, like for sure, a sheltered view. Like my wife's from Latin America, and when you go down there, like you see really quickly, like how it's not that where she is a dangerous or anything like that. It's just it's a way of life to be like, yeah, like if you don't lock shit up, it's gonna be gone. If you don't yell at somebody or they might legit stab you, like all these things that we take for granted, I guess. And it's not even that we take for granted. I think it happens here all the time. We just, we like to pretend it doesn't exist.
You don't hear about it, or yeah, you
No.
turn a blind eye to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Or I mean, nothing's really like I don't know if what part of the US you're from. You're in the US, right?
Yeah, I'm in Texas.
Okay. Yeah, like some places I know like they're just not doing anything. Like there's people stabbing people like here where
Hmm.
I am, like drugs, whatever. Like they're back out on the street the
No,
next day.
here in Texas, you don't know who has a gun, because everybody can carry, so nobody messes with anyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's safer to assume, oh, that person could have a gun, so I will not mess with them back if they mess with me, or vice versa.
Yeah, that's kind of a good point. And that's funny. That's one of the videos you see a lot that shows up on Instagram is like those altercations and road rage sometimes, right?
Oh,
But
dude.
oh man, it's crazy. We don't have that problem as much here. Wow. But I think I don't think it's necessarily a good thing. Well, it's not that you want gun violence, but like we're on the other aspect where we have police telling us like, hey, if people are trying to steal your car, like let them in your house and give them the fucking keys.
Hmm.
Like I don't know that that's the right attitude either, right? Because you can definitely see, like if I go downstairs, I live in a neighborhood where 2 years ago it was kind of like how do I say you have this like homeless population in town,
Hmm.
downtown. I'm in a small town. There was not a single homeless person 5 years ago. Well, not noticeably.
Hmm.
Now I'm like about 5 miles or 5 kilometers down from that, and I'm like, I can down. They're living under my balcony, down in my back parking lot, and like the landlords of these private properties won't even kick them off. It's like they set tents up all over, and it's like that everywhere you go. And it's like, oh well, you just gotta kind of let it happen.
Yeah, I guess you just kind of learn to live with it and
What?
hope for the best. I don't know. I don't know what, because we don't have. I mean, we have that here, but not like where I'm from in my town. I'm sure like
No,
going to like Austin and stuff like that, you do see more of that. But where I'm
probably,
here,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it
You
just
can just
depends.
shoot them. That like seriously, I don't know if that's true. I always hear this like, oh, you stand your own ground stuff that go. I don't know a whole lot about it, but like, oh yeah, he came on my property, so I shot him.
Yeah, it's called like the castle law or something like that. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, no, I don't know. I've always thought of the idea like the movie The Purge, that should
Oh man.
be like a real thing, but just for like homeless people. And
Oh god.
if a homeless person can't find sanctuary within a certain amount of time, then they have to, you know, deal with the one day, or if not, okay, So there's an
Send him
incentive
to
to find
jail.
a home.
Well,
Yeah.
it's like it's wild though that like they allow it to happen in a country where I was like Canada. Like we have what 35 million people. We have the second largest land mass in the world, and we can't find a place for people to go put a tent. I mean, there's something else going on when that's the case, right?
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
I don't know much about Canada and their laws. I mean, all I know is y'all seem very nice. It from the stereotype in movies. Y'all seem
Oh
very
yeah.
nice, and then y'all have ketchup potato chips, which I really love.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's a big yeah. There people are freaking out because they just brought back, I guess, some brands from like the 80s or 90s, some old flavors, but ketchup was there's a brand called Munchies,
Hmm.
but they
Yeah.
went out of so people are kind of losing their mind because they're back on the shelves this year.
And I was gonna get to it because I didn't even think about it. Yeah, like you said, it's on we're recording on 9/11, and
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, you're Canadian, so I don't know if you had to deal with it, or what's your thought on the whole like, where were you when it happened, and what did you really think of it?
Yeah, like it's funny. I was actually doing an episode that I released earlier today, but on Mandela effects, and I was talking about 9/11 specifically because uh there's just like a lot of people remember the thing different than it happened, right? We all know there's a ton of conspiracies.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't think that's news to anybody, right? But one of the things I was telling was a story about how I didn't believe it happened when I was watching it on the news like when it happened live at like 7 a.m. like first thing in the morning. I was in
Hmm.
college and the first building had hit the towers and then the second one, well, like the ladies on the news, I kind of remember coming through and then they're showing this like cycle of footage, right, of this thing hitting the second tower over and over again. And then all the clips coming in and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm looking at this, I'm half asleep, walk to school, get there like 20 minutes later, and kind of in the first few minutes of my period, don't see anything because I got in late. And the whole time I sat there, like not really thinking it actually happened. Like I just saw it. And I'm like, oh God, I must have not saw something on the TV right. I must not have been listening. I was half asleep and kind of pushing like out of my mind until like 20 minutes later, everyone's talking about it. And
Hmm.
it was just kind of like, I don't remember. It was complete shock because I really think that. at that time, I'm pretty sure if I was convinced we were about to kick off into like World War III when that happened, for sure. But
Really?
oh yeah, 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 yeah. For it, nothing, but it was wild. It was definitely. I know our entire country was shut down too, right? Like because they shut down
Mhm,
all the air traffic here.
mhm.
So there was like a lot of. It was kind of like in the pandemic, like a lot of community camaraderie, a lot of like that's you know sending people to help down there, but it was not anywhere. I'm guessing what you guys went through in any way, shape, or form. It's kind of like, oh, we can like pretend, oh yeah, we know what it's like, right? We know what it's like. No, no,
No, and
I can imagine.
me personally, I didn't even know what the Twin Towers were. So like me personally, right? I was in high school and they had it on the TV. I was a freshman in high school, and I was like, "Who cares?" They were like, "Oh, this is going down in New York." I was all, "Who cares? I'm in Texas." Like, like
Oh
what's the
yeah,
big?
yeah.
I was all, "What's the big deal?" Like in my head, but everyone's there crying and tripping out, and not until like later on when I got older that I realized, oh, this is actually a big event, like a big deal.
Oh man, yeah, yeah. I guess I must be a couple years older than you, but like, yeah, it was crazy. Like it was like literally, it was like like for us not being the country that got affected, it was literally the country standing still at that time. Like our federal public service was on strike. And it was like the instant 9/11 happened, the government came back and said, like, nope, like every contract, every union back to work. You can have what you want. We're going to pay you. But essentially, like, ordered the entire government back. Like, it's the first time that I can ever think of it. But, like, yeah, like, I think everybody thought it was about to get worse than it already was, I guess,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
my
No,
guess.
I
Yeah.
I get that feeling. It really did though. You unite everyone. It really
Yeah.
did.
Well, at least, like, white people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I wasn't such a nice time to be like any Middle Eastern. Holy crap, man! I remember the stories coming. I guess you might not remember that, but like there was like this massive shift in racism towards like Middle Eastern people trying to get on planes. Like after that,
Yeah, they couldn't
it was a real
wear
issue.
like the right shoes. They were wearing big shoes. They were gonna like stop them and stuff like that. No,
Oh
it
yeah,
changed
yeah.
a lot, but in I don't know. I look back at it and I can kind of laugh, and that's kind of if you're on the internet now, everybody's kind of like laughing at 9/11 as like it's always a big joke every year now, more so than a memoriam.
I
Now I feel.
remember
Hmm.
there was a comedian talking about 9/11, and I can't remember who it was. It was a fairly famous person.
Was
Very
it
short after this,
Gilbert Gottfried?
I can't remember. No, I
I
don't
think
think it was him.
it wasn't him.
But he was just talking about like how much time has to pass, like because the Titanic. We think it's pretty funny now, right? Like 9/11, but it didn't take long. Didn't take long for people. I mean, do you remember the meme of like the people jumping off the building and someone turned it into like an R. Kelly song that was like, I believe I can fly.
It was
That was like
terrible.
2000s. That had to be like 2006, 2007 that was going around.
No, the internet is I don't know, and I'm sure back then I probably would have been like, "Oh, that's tasteless," and then
Oh
like
yeah.
at some point I'd be like, "Oh, that didn't really happen. It was an inside job," and then like now here at this time I'm like, "Oh, that's pretty funny,"
It
like,
if 9/11 happened today, we woun't believe it. I don't people would be like, "Ah, okay." Yeah, like people are
it's
so
AI,
distrusting.
it's
Yeah,
AI.
like yeah, like I already didn't believe it back then. People would just be like, "Yeah, that's not real." Or yeah, be hard to take it as there's so many conspiracies around that thing too, which you can go down a whole rabbit hole, but so many of them are just so far out there that it's hard to take seriously.
Hmm.
But that wasn't the first time that they tried to blow up those buildings, which was interesting.
I
It was
think
the
I
second.
recall seeing. I saw like a. I remember one time that documentary Loose Change 9/11, and I watched it and I thought I knew too much, and I like started freaking myself out like, oh my god, I that was like one of the first conspiracy movies I watched. I was like, oh my god, I know too much. The government's gonna fucking put
Oh man,
something on me, you know?
it was scary after that because like people were legit getting like scooped up for the first time and like getting put down in Guantanamo and shit like that, right? Indeed, after the next like 10 years after that. But I think that, but kind of like, I remember having that thought in the back of my head, like, shit, you make one bad 9/11 joke playing on Xbox, and you're going to fucking end up in Gitmo.
You know, it you know, moving on, like with and again, your podcast, and then you talk about like different deaths or mysteries or true
Yeah.
crime stuff like that. Is there one that stands out in your mind that left you pretty like shaken, like for some reason?
Um, oh, I have to think here. There's a,
Because I know like anything having to do, I have nieces, right? So like let's say a movie, if they has like kids being abducted now, you know, when I was younger, I would be like, oh, I don't give a fuck. But now I watch a movie about kids being abducted, and it like gives me
oh yeah.
the paranoia, you know.
So I did a couple episodes on a few different serial killers, and that was it for me. I was like, I did probably about six, I think 6 episodes in total, and I kind of was like, man, like the more true crime type videos, it's just I find like it mentally wears on me, but like literally for that reason, it's almost like spurs like a paranoia. But there was definitely some creepy ones. I covered like a case. It was actually in Costa Rica. There was this guy they call a psychopath, and he was killing women around the city. And like, I remember the reason it was creeping me out because that guy's still out there, but it was like, man, the more and more you dug into this thing, it's like everyone's kind of thinking, like, dude, it's the fucking chief of police that's been like, or the chief of their national intelligence service. Kind of like picture like William Burns, the CIA director, out there like murdering dudes. It's kind of weird, creepy. There was another guy I covered, Israel Keys. It didn't sit right with me because it was just the way he went about like targeting people
Hmm.
in this like insanely random ways that it's scary because it literally could have been anybody. And I remember the guy said at one point, he's like talking about in Canada. He's like, oh yeah, he was from Alaska. And he's like, I go into Canada sometimes. And he's like, they're like, and the FBI's interviewing him, like, well, what about all your Canadian victims? Do you have any? He's like, well, I'm not going to talk about that because the Canadians don't count.
Okay.
I was like, oh fuck, all right. But it was he's a creepy fucking dude, man, for sure.
Is
Um,
that endearing? What does he mean by that? They don't count.
um, I honestly with him, it's hard to tell how
Yeah.
like for sure. I think he killed 11 people that the FBI is kind of confirmed. They think it could be like 45, but he would go around like, let's say he went, I think New Hampshire. He buries a bucket in the ground with guns, and like 2 years before he kills somebody there, so that there's like he comes in to kill this. He decides he's going to kill somebody. He doesn't know who at this point. He's buried weapons and all the stuff there. He flies to like Chicago, drives across the country, stays in a different state so that he kind of just zips over for this like murder, chooses this random couple in their garage or like breaking in through the garage, kills them. They never found the bodies even to this day, but it was like the randomness of like every single step leading up to that was like for that couple to get chosen had to be such a crazy series of like unfortunate events that it's just like, man, that could be anybody. Like there's nothing you could have done. There's like,
Hmm.
that's fucking creepy. But for sure, the scariest shit I think I've ever covered is the MK Ultra stuff. Like that stuff that the US government was up to in the States
Hmm.
is such a, it was happening in Canada too. But that one's such a rabbit hole that it's like there's been times where like, man, I don't want to look further into this because well, this is the thing. I don't know. Do you know much about MK Ultra? Like
Uh, is it like mind control? That's all I really like. I
kind of it,
mhm.
but basically like the CIA got caught by this is the Rockefeller Commission and Church Commission, but it wasn't mine. They were just drugging people and fucking with their memory. There were unsuspecting psychiatric patients, their own staff, just to see like, oh, like what's LSD when somebody doesn't know they're about to get dosed, right? Can we make somebody do all these things? But it's not so. It was more like the lengths that they went to do this shit. And the part that scares me is like they were also doing it in Canada under the same program with the cooperation of our government or our institutions on the Indigenous people, which is nice. Oh, sorry, I'm not going to say the cooperation of our government, the cooperation of McGill University.
Mm.
But the crazy part, right, is that if they went to all these lengths, they're spending all this money researching this crazy shit. They get caught 30 years later. It's on their website. You can go and read about it. But it's like, do you think they stopped? Do you think that like when they got like that's not the end of these programs, right? Like that's
Mhm.
the craziest part when you start looking like, man. And I'm not saying that they're out there like testing on people, but like some fucking evil doctor's got to be cooking up something all the time, and that's what I don't like. It's
Oh
like, oh, it's
yeah,
out of a movie, man.
yeah. That's just what they want you to know about. Like it's like, okay, you caught us. I guess we'll let you know what we want to let you know, and then, but where's the like you said, the parts where that we don't know. Like
Oh
it's
yeah,
scary.
they took Ted Kaczynski through that program. I think it was at one of the universities. So he's like under the psychiatrist. He's supposed to be exposed to. He thinks he's going in to help with like some kind of study. He ends up getting like electroshock therapy for like an extended period of time. It fucks him up for life. He just happens to turn into the Unabomber. I'm like, you think that's not connected?
No, no, I'm so open to like conspiracies and ideas and theories now, to where I swear, like I could hear something, like even with the debate yesterday when Trump said, "Oh yeah, cats are getting eaten in Ohio." I'm like, you know what? I believe that. I believe it. Like as crazy as it
Oh
sounds.
god. Oh yeah. I mean, hell, shit. I love eating moose meat. That's the big one up here. We picked up a roadkill one the other day. It was like fresh. It's like it's the meat for the winter, right? It's
That
good stuff.
sounds good. I don't know, jerky, something like that out of that meat sounds
Burger,
good.
jerky, yeah, you name it. But
Man.
no, it's interesting. It's just scary because and if you take that blueprint of like that crazy stuff, like okay, the U.S. government did MK Ultra. Well, okay, but then you just go down the line to just what every other country in the world. You have like Auschwitz, the Angel of Death, like Joseph Mengele. There was the Japanese, like in the medical experiments they were doing in Japan,
Hmm.
and yeah, like it's okay. Yeah, those things stopped, and it just terrifies me. Like, say, man, humans are not cool people sometimes, and I don't think like everyone's like, we want World War III. Like, let's go fight Ukraine and Russia. It's like, man, like, do you remember? Like, that's where all this shit comes from. Like, all of a sudden, like World War III is gonna hit. They're like, some doctors is gonna decide that they got to test shampoo in your eyes, or God knows what, right?
Oh yeah, no, fuck that. No, they're gonna start putting fucking weird ass chemicals in our water. No, no, that's
Oh,
already what they're doing.
oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, do you subscribe to the idea that could be a simulation or a dream or not real or anything like that?
Oh, for sure. Definitely. I mean, it's the idea that's 50-50 maybe, but
Hmm.
definitely seems like it sometimes when you start seeing all the crazy stuff happening in the world. And I know there's like a lot of scientists talk about it. What's that guy? Bostrom, Nick Bostrom. He's
Uh,
he wrote a paper on like the simulation theory, kind
mhm,
of like statistically showing that it was likely that we are living in a simulation, I guess.
mhm.
So there's some kind of depressing. The only thing that kind of sucks about that is it doesn't explain anything, because you're just going to go up one level and have all the same questions like who created this thing. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
what about you?
yeah, it just it just creates another question. And what you're saying doesn't make any answers.
Yeah.
Um, I believe anything, man. Like I really do. Like the whole idea, like the Matrix and deja vu and all that. I mean, I don't lose any sleep over it, but uh, I can see like the idea of like there being, I don't know, more to life than just what this is. And I could even subscribe to the idea of the Catholic way and an afterlife, like
Yeah.
more that way too. But then you can go into that being a simulation and it being our minds and energy and all that. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, 100%. It is so mind-boggling when you start thinking about it. But yeah, we could seriously be in a simulation. Be kind of cool. But I don't know. I guess we didn't pick the best one, man. Like, how the fuck did I end up in this role? It's like, yeah. Anyway,
Well, they
but
couldn't
yeah,
make it
no,
perfect, or we'd all freak out. I'm sure if like everything was perfect, it
or
would
like,
collapse the code or something.
yeah, or you're here voluntarily. That was it. Sometimes, like, I wonder that, like, the Matrix where you're hooked up to the thing on the outside.
Hmm.
Like, oh shit, you don't even realize you got a whole life out there. But if you told me like 10 years ago that there were no way I believed in it. But seeing how, like, yeah, we're gonna create a realistic simulation like in the next couple of years. Like new video games, chat GPT and all this stuff, like the next GTA 6, man, like
Hmm.
I'm fucking uploading. I'm not coming back.
And with
Yeah.
that idea in mind, and then this question here, sort of toward the end of here, how do you think like we'll die? Like, do you think it's going to be with war or AI or global warming, disease? Do you think like do you think the world will end, or just like the human race, or
I have a really boring theory on this. We're gonna die. We're all gonna die in a super, super, super unexciting way. Like all these crazy things that happen, like these extinction events, happen on time scales that like would span generations. And we often like a comet hitting Earth. You always like everyone's gonna die in the first 20 hours. No, they're gonna die over 25 years. Like,
Mhm.
right, it's gonna be starvation, generation, illness, genetic deformities, like you just name it. But
Yeah.
it's like I think it's going to be the scariest part of it all is like when it does happen, if it whether it's a comet or a solar flare. I think the sun's probably could be the one that's gonna kill us, most likely.
Uh-huh.
In one of I think what are they called? Milkovich cycles
Was that
of
Are
solar
you
flares.
talking where it swallows the universe?
Just yeah, like radio bursts and solar like coming from the sun, like in a really bad like I think coronal ejection. It can like essentially irradiate our atmosphere instantly. Like oh yep, done. And kill most of the life on the planet pretty quickly.
Mhm.
Uh, I hope, but the scary thing I always said like we're so used to like it would you won't know. That's what I'm trying to say. You won't
Uh-huh.
fucking know what it is. And it will not be this like if it's a comet that hits Japan and knocks out all the worlds and there's a huge EMP and knocks out all this shit, there's not going to be news. There's not even going to be like some kind of government authority to come and be like, hey, like a comet hit somewhere across the world. Like you're just going to know I don't have a phone or electricity anymore or a grocery store. That's the
Yeah.
part that I think is like weird. Like you won't know that it's ending.
You'll just have what you have at the moment as far as like
Yeah.
yourself
And
and
then
wherever
yeah,
you're
like
at.
I don't imagine that there's going to be some kind of announcement that's like, hey, dude, the world just ended. You're going to be like after like 3 weeks of realizing like nobody's coming.
Yeah, that is kind of sad.
Hopefully not. But I don't know. I
I,
don't think we're going to do it to ourselves. I really don't. I don't think we have the capability.
mhm.
I think we could kill enough of us. Like we'll kill enough of ourselves with nukes to stop ourselves from. Like, you know what I mean? We're going to kill 80% of the population, maybe, but you're not going to wipe the species off the planet. But bad volcano
But yeah,
might.
but
I don't know. What do you think? You think it like disease? Like, what do you think it could be?
you make an interesting point where like if it was like nuclear sort of event or a disease, it wouldn't necessarily end the world. It would just you stop a lot of people, whether it was on purpose or by accident, but we would like find a way to get through it, and then kind of like the Black Plague, like kind of go keep going. It happened, that sucked, oh well. uh
Yeah,
we nevertheless we persist. But
yeah,
yeah, like that theory you're saying about, okay, well, for the world to actually end, it would take like some sort of solar event or something like that. or something else, and then it would be just boring because the world would just end. You
Yeah,
know?
like basically turn us back into a giant space rock, or kind of like Mars is now. I think
Hmm.
that's what they think could have happened to Mars actually at one point, was like not necessarily the sun, but some kind of like outside event, like a meteor changed the entire habitat of the planet until it became a rock again. But I don't know. I hope it doesn't happen in my lifetime, but you never know. I really, really, really think that it could be something. Yeah, I think something like a sci-fi movie for sure that would do it.
No, that
AI
would
maybe.
be. Yeah, I'd probably be sleeping through it all. Be
Yeah.
honest with you. Knowing
Yeah,
me,
I don't know.
especially if the TV and the AC's off, I'll just like lay on the couch, sleep it out or
Oh
something.
man. Yeah, it would definitely be weird. Oh, I hate to think about it. I
But
don't
what I would like to highlight is, you do have your YouTube channel, Mysteries and Backstories, where I'm sure you talk about not as sad things, not as depressing things. Obviously, you have your stories about that you research. Do you research? Do you pick the research topics, or do you have people pick them for you?
No, it's a solo project. So kind of the way I would say the basic process is things that are like I've always been fascinated with. So, stories of weird survival stories, maybe where somebody's lost in the wilderness. Maybe there's like a cannibal tribe, or I did a few on some alien abduction recently, like alien abductions and things like that. So it's more like what kind of hits a personal note with me,
Hmm.
of things that just fascinate me. I definitely, like I said, it was fun to do the true crime more, like those couple of serial killer episodes, but YouTube seemed to like them all, but it's pretty dark. And so I try to tend to find things that are more little bit more like, what would I say, more of a supernatural element to it. Something that's just kind of like, hey, this doesn't add up. I don't know if you ever heard of this like story of the Dyatlov Pass, where a group of hikers in minus 30 weather, all nine of them like ripped their clothes off of and fucking run out into the wilderness to freeze to death.
No.
And their tent's still there, all their gear's in it. Some of the people have these like weird injuries that they think could have been caused by like infrasonic weapons. Like their insides are all like jellied, kind of
Hmm.
like some people think it's like some kind of weird avalanche, but there was no like cuts, like all this, like probably nothing that like I always think that there's I'll get into that in a second, but probably at the end of the day, it's probably just a mystery because we don't have all the information. But as much as I love these stories, what I was going to say is like there's so few like mysteries or conspiracies that I buy into. Like
Yeah.
I love it, man. It's fascinating, but at the end of these, like so many of them, when you dive into it, it just seems like the real mystery is that we're just missing information.
Hmm.
But I would love if aliens are real, man. Like that's like my number one. I just want to see one alien thing that I'm like, oh yeah, that I'm fucking gunning that. Like I believe in it. I'm gone, but no, I haven't seen it.
I feel like it's got to happen soon with the emergence of AI and the way we're like Elon Musk is making space travel more uh I don't know what you call tourist friendly.
Yeah.
I I feel like we're about to see them soon, and of course everyone argues like, well, we would have already seen them and it's like, I don't know, man, it's a big universe, a big whatever's out there,
Oh yeah.
could just take a while.
And it's early too, and that's something like in terms of the life of the universe, like we could just be the first ones, which
Hmm.
is kind of boring to think about, but yeah, like I hope, like I mean, all those UFO, like the stories you saw a couple years ago, right? You see all the videos of these things, and they're buzzing around the sky. And I was hoping when there was these announcements, like, oh, we're going to release all this disclosure information, and I read through a lot of it, and again, it all said nothing.
Hmm.
Right? It's all just, oh, somebody, a friend of a friend of a friend said they saw this. Well, or that David Grush guy comes out, he's never seen never seen a single thing in it with his own eyes. So it's like, well, like, okay, what am I supposed to do with that?
I still hold out for hope, and
Yeah,
that's all we can do is hope. I guess that they're
I hope so.
hope they come friendly and not, I don't know.
Yeah, you think they'll be benevolent, nice?
I don't think we will to them. I think we will immediately perceive them as a threat, and we won't have time to realize if they were friendly or not, because the
Oh
way,
God.
you know what I mean, the way the Earth would be, how we are, where we perceive things as threats immediately. I don't think we're gonna give them a chance to find out if they're
Oh,
good or bad.
dude, we're gonna end up like that road, like those road rage dudes in those videos that we're talking about on Instagram. Like we're gonna get out freaking out on these, and they're just gonna fucking unload like 6 rounds into us, and we're gonna drop dead on the spot.
Oh, we're just
We're gonna,
gonna send a
yeah.
nuke straight up there, like to wherever they're hovering or what.
Oh God. Hopefully they're friendly. It's like, geez, that was our government. Don't kill all of us, man. That wasn't us.
Yeah, that was just America.
That was
Don't kill
America.
you.
We're not with them. I don't know, man. It would be, yeah, it would definitely be weird. It would definitely be like, I don't know how I would process that. It's like, I kind of think it's like, I think everyone low key is expecting it, like you said.
Mhm.
But
We'll see.
would you believe it? If the United States government or whatever, Israeli government came out tomorrow and was like, yeah, we have 100%, we have proof that aliens exist. You think people would believe them?
I'd be open to it. I would be like,
I
I
would,
could
but
see, I could see that happening, but show me the evidence. Don't let it be like Mexico when they had those paper mache little aliens.
that's exactly it, right?
Yeah,
That's the example. Your government comes out and everyone just laughs at it.
yeah.
Those are
No,
probably fucking real aliens for all we know. I remember
yeah,
like laughing at this thing. Like, there's some poor Mexican guys holding like one of the most important discoveries to like humankind, as Fox News is making fun of them.
yeah, dude. Those are just pinatas. Shut up. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that.
No.
Those definitely look pretty cool at first.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like the off, like focus pictures of them, like the screen captures of that like broadcast made it look like real cool. Like, oh
Oh yeah.
shit, this isn't
Well,
supposed to be shared.
what the fuck were they making back then though? Seriously. Think about it. Like they had to model that after something. Like it looks just like ET.
Yeah, that's what's crazy too. That aliens sort of have that universal alien look to them. Like the Roswell little creatures.
Yeah. Yeah, as far like God. And there's like right back to at least like Hindu times, like back at like 10,000 years ago, like there was like no, whenever scripture was coming out. Anyway, the I can't think of the main book in Indian religion in Hinduism, but there's like a super old one.
Hmm.
Anyhow, like even back in there's like people writing about like seeing UFOs and shit, and these like flying, I think they called them Viminods back then, but like the same thing that we see or describe today, those like little creatures. What the hell, man?
There's got to be some like a drop of
There's,
truth in the bucket.
oh,
Of
100%.
there
For
has
sure
to
there's
be.
got to be something like they're either watch if they are there, they're watching us, or like maybe there's a few things like I've heard before that freak me out, but one of them is that we are the remnants of actually like an extinct human civilization. Like humans left this planet like a million years ago, right?
Hmm.
We're not supposed to be here. They left us to die and we just kind of hung on. And those are like drones or whatever, like coming back to see us. Or like the people that made those UAP drones, they're like they've been dead for like 100,000 years or millions of years, right? Those things are just on like a coded loop doing their research and survey and reporting back to a planet that's been gone for longer than we'd have existed.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh fuck, man, that would suck. Can you imagine finally finding these things to be like, they're dead? Like, or it was like, or it's us and we're like the garbage that they left behind.
Yeah, yeah. That's rowdy, anticlimactic, and it would
Yeah.
just be sad. It would just be
Yeah. We're like, oh, we're not even the good ones.
sad. We were left to die.
Yeah. Yeah. We were,
Uh,
yeah.
no, but yeah, speaking of death, everyone, I want to thank you for your time. check out the death. What is it? I got it written here. Making fun of dead people everywhere podcasts are available, and on YouTube. Check out Mysteries and Backstories.
Awesome,
Uh,
man.
yeah, where they could check you out. Anywhere else you got a plug, or where they could?
No, that's it, man. That's the two. Appreciate it though. Yeah, that's where you'll find me. Spotify, Apple, and YouTube.
Awesome. Well,
Awesome.
again, that's Mystery and Backstories on YouTube and Spotify and Apple. Looking for the podcast, making fun of dead people, and yeah, no, I hope you keep trucking along, doing what you're doing, and I appreciate your time today, man.
Yeah, you too, man. Take
Y-
care, and it was good to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks everyone for listening. Stay alive out there, and we'll see y'all next time. Take care. Bye.